So if we're going to read the book with respect, then we see that this is a very clear and dominant teaching, a very strong emphasis on God being one. Never the expression God is one in three. So it does not seem right to then look for hints on the page and say, oh, but wait a minute, there's something there. It looks like there is more than one God after all. So we must continue to say that there is only one God. The fact that the word for one in Hebrew can also mean a compound one, that by itself does not really indicate that God is made up of several beings altogether. Because the simple declaration continuously is that there is only one God. Now, in Mark's Gospel, we have a repetition of the Shema Israel, the declaration that there is only one God. In Mark chapter 12, verse 27, for example, where Jesus says that the greatest of all of the commandments is, Hear, O Israel, the Lord your God, the Lord is one. So when, again, there is that clear declaration, we should not interpret something else as being contrary to that. For example, you're saying, okay, so Jesus was there being tried by the high priest, and the high priest asked him, are you the Son of the Blessed? And he confirms it. So, okay, so Son of the Blessed, does that mean he's God? Could that be taken in a metaphorical sense? There has to be some way of reconciling that with already the clear and open declaration that there is only one God. We cannot say that, okay, that is a clear and open declaration, there is only one God, but let's find another God in here somewhere. Unless, of course, somebody is trying to be critical of the Bible and trying to prove that the Bible contradicts itself. There it says one God, and look, there's a couple of other gods over here, so that's a contradiction. But if one is reading it with respect, trying to interpret one part in the light of another, one has to say that there is only one God. Of course, Christians can say that while there are clear passages saying that there is only one God, there are also clear passages indicating that that one God is somehow in three persons. But we should ask, how clear are those passages? For example, the passage where Jesus is asked, are you the Son of the Blessed? And he says, I am. And you rightly say that Mark, according to my own theory, is the first of the four Gospels, and therefore, on the face of it, more authentic. But we should also recognize that the synoptic tradition has to be read in parallel. So there are synoptic Gospels. There are three Gospels called synoptic because they can be seen together. They are synoptic Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke. They're labeled like this because you can see episode for episode that the same thing is narrated in its basic form in the three Gospels in parallel. But to understand any particular episode, scholars would look at the three together. So we would look at Mark, to be sure, and we would look at Matthew, and also Luke. So in Mark's Gospel, usually we have the earlier form of the saying, but not always. Scholars, in reconstructing the literary relationship between these three Gospels, have identified Mark basically as the source of the other two. But I say basically because there are some exceptional passages in Mark which does not fit that pattern of Mark being the source of the other two. And this is one of the passages, because in Mark's Gospel, Jesus replies and says, I am. But in Matthew's Gospel, and in Luke's Gospel, I'm not so sure about Matthew's Gospel. In Luke's Gospel in particular, Jesus replies, you have said that I am. So, the high priest asks Jesus, are you the Son of the Blessed? According to Mark, he replies, I am. According to Luke, he replies, you have said that I am. So, which are his original words? Scholars would tend to think that Luke has the original wording in this case, rather than Mark having it. And we're left here without a real proof, a dependable one, that Jesus really confirmed that he is the Son of the Blessed. But even if he said all of these things, okay, I am the Son of the Blessed, and you will see the Son of Man coming on the right hand of power on the clouds of heaven, and that obviously reminds us of Daniel chapter 9. But when we look at Daniel chapter 9, we see that there is God who sits on the throne. He is the Ancient of Days. And then there is someone else who comes to approach him. So that's someone else who comes to approach him. He is not the Ancient of Days. So if we understand that the Ancient of Days here is God, and there is only one God, then that's it. He is one God. If there is some exaggeration regarding another figure, some kind of mystical treatment or mystical idea about someone else who is close to God, and he comes and approaches God at his throne, that does not mean, again, that we can have more than one persons who can each equally be called God. That there are more than one persons who each can equally be called God is really the declaration of the Council of Nicaea. It's not even in the Gospels. The word Trinity does not even exist in any of the three Gospels, the four Gospels. Neither Mark, nor Matthew, nor Luke, nor John. So that's really a later development. And we cannot imagine that was the situation for all times. Any other questions or a follow-up or whatever?
I think
yes.
that in there.
Yes.
What is the main difference between Judaism and Islam if we both believe in one God?
The main difference between Judaism and Islam is that Judaism continued with the teachings of the prophets up until a prophet whose name we don't have, but who is referred to as my messenger, Malachi. And that comes to be the last recognized prophet in Judaism, whereas Muslims accept that after that another prophet came, Jesus, and we believe in him as well. And even subsequent to that another prophet came, Muhammad, and we believe in him too. So if we think of the rays of the same light, we think now of Judaism continuing in that light up until the prophet Malachi, or Malachi.
What is the Arabic name for Malachi?
I don't know, Malachi, something. Malachi. Malak, messenger, Malachi. Today we use Malak to mean angel, but Malak means messenger, essentially. So Malachi, my messenger. So Judaism comes up to here, that's Judaism. And Christianity comes up to Jesus, that's Christianity. And Islam comes all the way down to the Prophet Muhammad. So Islam accepts all of these. Judaism stops here. Christianity stops here. So it's a continuing teaching that has come down, and in that sense we can say that we have here the three religions which are rays of the same light. And I think that's about all the time we have. What do you say?
Unless they want to stay, I personally don't mind, but I think probably people...
You guys have time? You want to stay?
Yeah.
I think so.
Another 10 minutes or so? Okay, just to make sure that everyone is at ease, I realize that people have classes to attend, you have things to do. If anybody wants to leave now, let's take a moment and say, if anybody wants to leave now, you're free to do so after Tariq's final announcements about the upcoming programs and so on. And then we'll continue for another 10 minutes or so. How's that? Yeah?
Okay.
Democracy.
I think everybody wants to stay.
Okay, so everybody stays then. All right. So, all the way back.
One quick question. We can say that Islam is the latest version of the message of God, most complete one, actually. So, are all the teachings from the Judaism and Christianity carried forward, or is any of the laws reverted as well, changed as well?
Yeah.
Is it just a superset, or is there something which has been changed as well?
Both. Islam as a revelation supersedes the previous revelations in the Muslim view. But there was also the sense of abrogation in that previously there might have been some regulations given. According to the Quran, these regulations were given because of the rebellion of the people. So God gave them more difficult regulations to deal with since they were so rebellious. And as a mercy now to people, God has given us lighter regulations. In fact, we see that already in Christianity, where it is said that Jesus abrogated some of the teachings, for example, regarding the Sabbath. The